Let's hear out Subir Gokaran, who's talking about growth and inflation targets.
Opened its first branch in Mumbai last year. So do you think like the Indian regulators will welcome more Chinese financial institutions to have a branch?
I think the approach is not country specific. Branch banks that believe that there is a business option in India are welcome, subject to various regulatory constraints that apply to all foreign banks in terms of ownership, in terms of capital, in terms of where they set up branches. So those apply to all international banks.
Okay, are we looking for like the Indian banks or Reserve Bank of India is looking for like more gaining reserve of the RMB in your monetary system?
I don't think that we are at this point looking at a very strategic currency diversification. It's something that will happen as a matter of routine as the global currency dynamics change.
Are you looking for like more cooperation between the two currencies?
Not in terms of currency specifically, certainly in terms of the wider economic relationship between the two countries, yes, in which finance also plays a part.
Okay.
Dr. Gokaran, in the current context, you're talking about policy space. Do we have enough policy maneuver room given the global commodity prices and given what we're seeing in growth?
Well, as I said, when we went into the Lehman collapse, inflation was 12.5%. Interest rates when the repo rate was 9%. The fiscal situation was much better, but oil prices were $147. Within a few weeks of the Lehman collapse, oil prices came down very sharply, and that allowed the monetary stance to respond quite aggressively to the crisis. So the space is really a question of how the crisis itself evolves. I think it's not very meaningful to think in terms of a global crisis in which commodity prices remain so firmly so rigid. And if those prices come down, then the inflation dynamics change completely, and that creates space.
At the current global price level, so the oil price level, are you building in an upside to your inflation numbers right now?
I think the inflation number is not a function of only one variable. It is higher oil prices clearly play a role, as does the currency movement. But there is also the growth moderation that we're seeing, which might actually help to contain inflation as from the demand side. Food prices are also going to play a role, and if we have some stabilization or even softening of food prices as we go along, either because of the monsoons in the short term or because of initiatives that the government has made quite explicit in the budget, that will also help to contain inflation. So there are a number of factors at work. It's not just one thing or the other.
The CPI numbers are pretty high, but now we've had 2 months of the new year-on-year CPI numbers showing that CPI is running ahead of WPI.
I think we can't really make policy judgments on the basis of 2 months of a new series. This is a series that shows some promise as a benchmark for inflation management, but it's too early in its life to decide that we have to put a heavy weight on it. We're monitoring it, we're analyzing its dynamics in relation to the other indices, and at some point it will become a more important benchmark for us, but it's too early to make that transition.